2023 League of Legends World Championship is only one best of 5 away from crowning a new winner. But before we look at the two teams fighting for the Summoners Cup, we must first pay tribute to the 6 teams who will not be joining them tonight. Let us pay tribute to the following. There's no way around it. When it came to the quarterfinalists, NRG were the odd ones out, both in terms of region and in skill level. While there was some optimism coming in, what with Weibo being the lowest rated team in the quarters and NRG punching well above their weight before, that hope was dashed by games 2 and 3. Light destroys all of their hopes and dreams as the West as a whole has yet to take a game in the knockout round since 2020. Don't feel too bad though. It was an excellent entrance into the League of Legends scene, and with most of the core staying together, NRG should hopefully be a key player in the LCS for years to come. Gen G's inability to step it up when it matters internationally is so baffling it's almost impressive at this point. You'd think a number 1 seed with one of the best players in the world, a rising star at AD carry, and solid players in top jungle and support would be enough to slip past the struggling BLG. You'd be wrong. BLG didn't just come out swinging, they wiped Gen G's face on the pavement. Nothing went right for the LCK champions. It was a slaughter in every sense of the word. Credit where credit is due, Gen G did get their acts together in games 3 and 4, but it just wasn't meant to be. Maybe next time try not letting the enemy jungler pick the same champion he's comfortable on for 5 games straight. This also means that despite being one of the best players in the world since his debut, Chovy has one World's Best of 5 win to his name despite making it there 5 times. If something doesn't change soon, the only title he will have is that of being the best player to never win at all. Why is this organization not allowed to have nice things? Is this punishment for the hubris of picking T1 in the summer playoffs? Do the gods just not like KT? Whatever it is, it's clear that some higher power has it out for KT Ulster. While teams like Weibo and NRG get to cruise by beating up on the West, KT had to run the LPL and LCK gauntlet just to make it to the knockout round. Their reward for surviving this gauntlet? Getting to play the back-to-back LPL champions and MSI winners in JD Gaming. There are few words that can describe how cursed this organization is. But KT didn't roll over and die. In fact, they punched JDG in the mouth in Game 1. And in Game 4, it really looked like KT could take the LPL champs to 5 games. But once again, this organization isn't allowed to have nice things. Knight puts the knife in their back at Baron, and Twisted and pulls the rug out from under KT. 3-1, season over. It was still a good year as KT has returned to international relevance for the first time since 2018. We can only hope they will build on this and come back stronger next year. That was an underwhelming exit for a team that was considered to be a dark horse to potentially win it all. Yes, it was T1. Yes, T1 is historically good against LPL teams at Worlds, but if you took the nameplates off coming in, you probably would have picked LNG. If you took the nameplates off during the series, you would not be able to tell if the team that showed up Sunday was LNG. Actually, you probably would, as LNG's reputation for falling apart in the clutch despite their talent has become somewhat infamous in the LPL. And nowhere can this duality be seen better than in their jungler Tarzan. On one hand, Tarzan has been a key factor in LNG's rise to becoming a respectable organization, and has at times been the only thing keeping them relevant. This is a fact. He is also what consistently holds LNG back when it matters most. Perhaps choking in key situations truly is an ex-Griffin thing, but even given his established reputation, this series was something special from him. Usually, Tarzan's struggles in the clutch come from him not doing enough to win, simply existing and not much else. This series, there were points where it looked like he was actively running it down. It's not all on him, as nobody on LNG really showed up either, but a tournament that was looking so promising after the Swiss stage went up in flames so quickly. Now all we can do is wonder what could have been. It's hard to describe, but for almost this entire tournament, BLG just looked off. Sure, they were still good, that team still made semifinals at the game's biggest tournament, but they never quite looked like the team that went 15-1 in the summer, or the team that made a surprising run to the MSI finals. I thought they were turning things around after going up 2-0 on Gen G, but the fact that that series went 5 games at all set off massive alarm bells. In their final series of the year, BLG had devolved into a team that lived and died by bit, and while the series went 5 games, only one of them was close. When their star was online, BLG would cruise to victory as Ben bounced back from early deaths in Game 2 to land critical stuns, and dominated the Shy's pocket pick in Game 4. When he wasn't online, he was being dominated by the Shy's other pocket pick in Game 3. And the less said about his Game 1 Aatrox, the better. The final game was a back-and-forth nail-biter, but in the end, Weibo was simply the better team on the day, and thus ends a bittersweet year for BLG. On one hand, they lost 2 finals to JD Gaming and will have no trophies, either domestic or international, to look back on. On the other hand, this is the first year that BLG has been relevant for the right reasons in League of Legends ever. At the beginning of the year, BLG going this far was almost unthinkable. It hurts, but they can still hold their heads high. If you ever wanted to see the textbook definition of a backbreaking loss for a franchise, look no further. JD Gaming coming into this had everything to play for. They were on their way to completing League of Legends' first ever Golden Road, and they had a shot to do it by avenging the 2022 Worlds run against T1. JD Gaming spared no expense, making a super team that had one of the LPL's modern greats in Knight, and a man who has been in contention for the title of Best AD Carry for years in Ruler. Their match against T1 was being billed as the match of the decade, and for good reason. Unfortunately, one team had to lose that matchup, and unfortunately for JDG, that team was them. And they won't just get any loss, oh no, they'll get their hearts ripped out Mortal Kombat style in the most painful way possible. You like 369? You enjoy how he always goes even in lane at minimum before showing up in team fights and crushing it? Turns out he can't play Rumble. It all but cost you game 1 and handicaps you for the rest of the series. But a stomp isn't fun. Win game 2 and get emotionally invested as the series is living up to the hype. We need that for maximum pain. And it comes in full force in game 3. You starting to gain some momentum? Owner and Carrier break your legs at Dragon with a beautiful wombo combo. Have you been enjoying having Ruler this season? You like his incredible mechanics and love having quite possibly the best player in the world in 2023 on your side? Watch him get caught sleeping in the mid lane to give T1 a Baron and a new lease on life. What's that? You actually rebounded from that mistake? You're charging down mid lane or about to take a commanding 2-1 series lead? Unfortunately for you, Faker still holds a grudge against Ruler for the 2017 World Finals. And he wants blood.
TP coming in, Faker looking to make the play against Ruler! Owner goes in! And again, the combos are clean! The hostile takeover is damn well hostile! T1 looking to leave no survivors alive. 369 admits the entire team will get absolutely nothing! T1 in the clutch are too damn clean!
Dagger to the heart. A valiant effort and a game all but won, ultimately undone by the greatest of all time and your league's mortal enemy. Do we even need to play Game 4? We all know how this is going to end. Kanabi knows it too. He feels pretty bad that Tarzan's getting the spotlight of ex-Griffin jungler who falls apart when it matters, and decides to share the spotlight with him by running face first into the entirety of T1 multiple times. What a nice guy. Thus, JD Gaming suffered their first best-of-5 loss all year at the worst time to the same team that knocked them out last year. And believe it or not, it actually gets worse. That super team is rumored to cost around $16 million. You aren't keeping the gang around. It's a shame too. This was the best team in the world uncontested for 95% of 2023, but they just couldn't get the job done. JDG have plenty of trophies to fall back on, and have done an admirable job of becoming a household international name, but this defeat is a bitter pill to swallow. And I don't know if JD Gaming will get a shot this good for a long, long time. With perhaps the single best bracket draw we could have gotten given the teams left, the knockout round has been a pleasure to watch. But only one team will be walking away with the ultimate prize in LoL Esports. Let's meet the contenders. On the top side of the bracket, we have... What? Weibo? The team that only won one series against NIP and LPL playoffs? The team that had to fist fight top esports in regional finals? The team that hadn't beaten a single LPL or LCK team while qualifying for the knockout round? They made it? Surprisingly? Yes. And perhaps the most surprising twist of fate in a year full of them, Weibo Gaming have peaked at the exact right time. We always knew they had the potential to be something special given the players, but it just had never fully clicked throughout the year. Given they're the only LPL team left standing, I would say they're clicking at the exact right time. What Weibo brings to the table is an incredibly solid mix of players old and relatively new to the international stage. Weiwei wasn't even the starting jungler at the beginning of the year, only coming in for Karza in the summer as Weibo's turbulence reached critical levels. Making his international debut, Weiwei has been exactly what Weibo needs. A facilitator. Someone who's willing to kick off the fight so the stars can shine bright. A star like their AD carry Light, for example. Despite only having one previous Worlds appearance under his belt, Light has made a name for himself as one of the top-tier LPL AD carries. No small feat to be sure given the stiff competition. He has finally been given another shot to showcase his skills on the international stage, and he is running with it. From his utter destruction of NRG and his Kalista in Game 5 against BLG, he is putting his name on the map, hopefully for years to come. While Weibo isn't afraid to rely on the youth, their true power lies in the veterans. Mid laner Xiaohu will go down in history as one of, if not the greatest players in LPL history. His LPL titles on Royal Never Give Up, his 3 MSI titles across 2 positions, his legacy and consistency is almost unmatched, and now he has a chance to finally get that world title that's evaded him for so long and silence the naysayers. If he picks up a world championship, Xiaohu gets in on the conversation of the greatest of all time. But Weibo's biggest threats are their 2 world champions. Crisp of 2019 Fun Plus Phoenix fame has been a monster in the support position. He's been an amazing enabler for light success, and his Renata has become an almost must ban. But even that is poultry compared to the one true star of Weibo, their top laner, the Shy. The 2018 world champion made a name for himself as one of the most exciting top laners to watch in both victory and defeat. From his Aatrox that broke the hearts of European fans everywhere, to his strange picks in Kalista top, to his plays where you just wonder what he was thinking. The Shy has been called many things over the years. Boring was never one of them. This tournament has been a return to 2018 form for the Shy. There's a reason why he's the most talked about player on Weibo. It's because when he's on his A game, he looks almost impossible to stop. That series against BLG was his swan song. The Shy was matched against quite possibly the single best top laner at the tournament, and he put him 6 feet under convincingly. With the Shy leading the way, Weibo have been hard at work silencing those that would call their run a fluke thanks to their good draws in the Swiss and knockout stage. What seemed almost impossible only a little over a month ago is only 3 games away from becoming a reality. The Summoners Cup may once return to the LPL again, but in their way stands their greatest challenge yet. A very familiar foe that should strike fear into the hearts of any who dare root for the LPL. Let's turn back the clock a bit. The day is July 23rd, 2023. T1 have just lost their 5th game in 6 games and are currently limping their way into the LCK Summer Playoffs. Faker has been out for 3 weeks thanks to a wrist injury, Kobe hasn't been cutting it as a replacement, the team is utterly lost without their captain, people are startlingly aware that T1 might not have any plans for life after Faker, everything is on fire, and things are just generally unpleasant for the T1 faithful. Imagine telling them then that this iteration of T1 would be the one to go on one of the greatest World Championship runs we've ever seen, and only be one best of 5 away from re-establishing themselves as the single greatest League of Legends organization of all time. In an extreme rarity in their long history, T1 were not the favorites coming into Worlds. Their underwhelming exit at MSI, turbulent summer, and convincing loss to Gen G had somewhat pumped the brakes on the T1 hype train. Their opening match against Team Liquid only seemed to diminish excitement further. However, there's a funny thing about this iteration of T1. They do their best work when they're being written off. Thanks to the solid young core of Zeus, Owner, Gumayusi, and Keria, and Faker making his triumphant return from injury, T1 have made their 2nd straight World Final. And they couldn't have done it in a more dramatic fashion. You thought this Worlds would be all about the LPL's ascension and taking their rightful place as the best region in the world? You clearly forgot who the main protagonists of League of Legends are. Billy Gaming? The ones who knocked out T1 and MSI? 15-1? Pick the side 2-0 in the Swiss stage as an afterthought. How about LNG? Scout was the LPL MVP. Gall is one of the best AD carries in the world. Perhaps they'll send T1 home. Swept. Dominated on all fronts as T1 literally rewrites the meta with only 3 matches left in the tournament. But surely JD Gaming won their run. They're on the golden road and they haven't lost a best of 5 all year. The textbook definition of a super team with 2 of the most hyped superstars to play the game in Knight and Ruler? Well, they put up a better fight than their compatriots, but to T1 they were simply another chance to make a better highlight reel. That flash onto Ruler from Faker in the mid lane in Game 3 will be in every single teaser T1 will ever be in at international competitions from now on, and it's completely justified. Faker still has yet to lose the best of series to the LPL at Worlds. Admittedly, this ignores MSI where the LPL has ran supreme, but it is still an amazing stat nonetheless that speaks to both his longevity and his ability to step it up when it matters most. T1 have not only survived the LPL gauntlet, they have thrived in it. And only one more team, a most unlikely one in Weibo, stands between them and their 4th Summoners Cup. The Weibo underdog story has been a fun one to follow, and as a 4th seed that nobody expected to make it here facing a resurgent T1, some are saying that Weibo could play the same role that DRX did last year and pull off the upset. However, I think this team more closely resembles Suning of 2020. Fitting too, given Suning eventually rebranded to Weibo and that's how they got the LPL slot. Weibo can keep it closer than people are saying. I even think they can steal a game. But I can't see them surviving a 5-game series with T1 in peak form. It feels surreal to say it given how this year was dominated by the LPL up to this point, but I think T1 will win. Faker wins his 4th World Championship in front of his home country as T1 re-established themselves as the team all should aspire to be. Alcohol consumption by LPL fans spikes by 300% over the next 11 months. The core of T1 proves themselves in the contract year when it matters most and stays together as they finally get over the hump. God help us all.